Alright guys, today we are tackling the window controller by MX5 Things. What this controller is going to allow us to do is control the one-touch operation of the windows on the car. By default, the car can do one-touch opening of the windows, but to close them you have to click and hold. So the controller will allow us to do a one-touch operation close. If you install the ignition controller that we did in another video, it'll also allow you to open and close the windows using your key fob. So stick around. I'm going to give you a quick overview of all the OEM settings. Then we'll go ahead inside, tackle the programming of the controller. We'll do the installation, and at the very end I'm going to give you a full rundown on all the new features that the controller enables. So stick around and we'll get through this together. Alright guys, so we're inside the car now. We'll give you a quick overview of what the car does by its default OEM settings. So to open either the driver or the passenger window, you can just press once and it will lower them all the way. That's for both sides, but if we try to close them, as soon as you let go, the windows will stop. So if you do want to finish closing your windows, you do got to press and hold until they are fully closed. Now, when it comes to the roof operation, as soon as we press the open button, the windows drop about 1 inch and then the roof will do its thing. Now, when the roof opening is finished, the windows do pop back up to the fully closed position, something it doesn't do when the roof closes. So let me go ahead and demonstrate again. When we close the roof, the window will drop about 1 inch. The roof will do its closing. And then once it finishes with its operation, the windows will remain open just a bit, about a 1 inch gap that doesn't close. So let's go ahead and go inside to the computer. We'll run you through the setup of the controller module and then we'll tackle the installation. Okay guys, so here we are in the office with the window controller. The window controller does have default settings in place. So if you don't plan on doing the key fob modification, you can actually just go ahead and place this into your door and it will do the auto up and down and all the features that this provides. However, if you are using the key fob installation and you want to switch it from the double click to open or close, you can go ahead and access the control module via USB and change the settings. So you can either completely turn them off, make it a 1-click operation, 2-click, or 3-click. Since we are doing the RF roof controller as well, which we have to set to 3 clicks, I just want to double check that these two won't interfere with each other. So I'm going to show you really quick how to access that here on the computer. So on the back side, you'll see a little USB port. It's kind of hard to see. Go ahead and plug that in. And then we'll take this and plug it into the computer and it should recognize it pretty much immediately. So let's switch over to the screen and I'll show you how this works. Alright, so once you plug in the USB, you get the little Windows notification that it's connected. Go ahead and go into the MX5Things.com website. In this particular case, we're going into the MX5 RF catalog. We are doing the window controller, so let's go ahead and find that. So the automatic roll-up window controller for the RF. We'll click here, and then depending on if you have a Mac or a Windows, you'll pick the appropriate software. In our case, we have the Windows software. We'll go ahead and download it, open it up, and run it. So once you're here, depending on which USB port you put it in, either be COM1, nothing found. In my case, it's COM3. So you go ahead over here, select COM3 from the drop-down and hit connect. It's found everything, and then you can choose either to disable the key fob open, 1-click or 2-click. As I said earlier, I want to go with 2 clicks because I want the first click just to lock it. So if I do have the windows open or closed, I want to leave them that way. The second click will override it and give me the windows up or down. And then the third click is also an option. However, as I mentioned, I am doing the roof controller with 3 clicks, so I don't want those to interfere. So once you set them up, just hit close and you're all set. You can go ahead and unplug your USB and take it over the car for installation. Alright, so here we are in the garage about to start the installation. The first thing you want to do is, if you do have the RF, go ahead and open your roof and lower the windows and then go ahead and disconnect the battery. If you need help with that, there is another video in the playlist on how to disconnect the negative battery terminal. And then the first thing we got to do is remove the door panel. So to do that, we got to remove 2 sets of screws here, one from the door handle and one from the little cubby. So let's get started with that. Alright, so to get started, we just had to remove these little covers. This one just kind of pops up. Try to get a fingernail on one of the lips and kind of just push it. It's this kind of flexy material, so you won't really damage it, which will expose the one screw in there, the Phillips screw. And then for this guy, I like using one of these nylon pry tools, and you can kind of squeeze it in right behind there and just push and just pry gently and it pops out. So there's a bit of resistance, but that should be removable. This one's a little harder, so try to be careful with this one because this could potentially break if you're not careful. But once we remove that, you should see another screw, another Phillips screw right here, which we'll go ahead and remove. All right, so get your Phillips screwdriver. There's one. Put that to the side, and then we have the other guy in here. And then those are the two Phillips screws. Alright, so once you have the two screws removed from the door handle and the little cubby, the panel should just pop off. There's 6 clips, which I'll highlight here with some video editing magic, which will show you the order. Essentially, we're starting from the lower right-hand corner, going all the way across, and then we're releasing the top right-hand corner. So let me go ahead and move the camera, see if I can get a better position for myself, and then we'll just show you. So when you're pulling, just make sure you pull it forward, away from the door, and then you want to pull away from the gasket. So pretty much where this gasket is all the way around, this is the panel that needs to come off. Don't try to pull further than that. So just right here. There's a little bit of space to get your fingers behind it. Alright, so I do recommend if you have a nylon pry bar, definitely use it on the door panel. This thing is on there very well. It's really hard. I've already started hurting my fingertips trying to get it, just to get a little bit more leverage. So I went ahead and grabbed this really quick to speed things up. It kind of helps. So we just put it back here and pop. I already popped the first one, but just note this is hard. It's gonna be really uncomfortable, but like I said, use the pry bar, get it in there, and just use it for leverage, and you can kind of feel where the pins are, or the plugs. Just gonna go all the way around. Once it's loose, just lift the panel up, so it should lift up just a little bit. Then you're loose. Then I don't know if the camera's showing this, but you can just pretty much pull the door handle out and it slides out. And then, let's see if I can go around here. Once you remove the door, there's 2 connection points right there, which is where the controller is going to attach. So go ahead and remove these guys. And these are your standard, just push the clip and pull out, and then make sure you store your door. Don't lay it on the paint so you don't scratch it. So once you get the door out, you do actually want to pull out the old plugs that were holding the door. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then one of them, the one down here, actually did come out fully and is still on the back side of the door. Looks like we did break one, but you can pick these up at the dealership. I'll put the item number and the part. It's about $1.50 for each one of these if you do break it. I would recommend replacing them so you don't end up kind of rattling all over the place. So let's go ahead and pull those out really quick. We do have another pry bar tool, and we'll just pop those off really quick. All right, so once you pop the plugs out, I'm going to show you what you're kind of working with. So it kind of looks like this. It's a pressure mounted push pin. So this part here attaches to the door, which I'll show you in a second. And then this will just push in and clip in place. So this is the one we broke, and I just tried it on the door. As long as you have more than half, so as long as the center piece is still covered, it will still work. So no need to get a new one if you have, you know, a half a circle going on. Just make sure you have the top part, as this is the part that will attach to the door. These are really stubborn to do, so I'm going to show you a quick trick that I was doing. So I don't want to push this back in because it took me forever to get it out, but let's see if I can do this. Get yourself a string, something kind of thick, and tie yourself kind of like a loop. Get it behind the push pin. Essentially, you want to get it behind that last ring, and then you can just use this to kind of pull it out. I was using the string and the pry bar to kind of just pop them out, so that makes it a lot easier. So that's kind of what you'll be doing. It just helps you get the leverage to pull everything out. All right, so we got all the little rivets out. Here they are. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Getting these out absolutely sucks. Your fingers will hurt. There might be a little bit of blood involved, but here's what they all look like. And let me go ahead and show you really quick how to put them back in the door. All right, so here we are on the back of the door panel. Like I said, make sure you put it on something soft so you don't scratch the paint. Let's just take this guy as an example. We'll zoom in. So here's where the rivets came from. And then you just want to get the first ring into the slot. So just line it back up. And these guys just slide right in, and then they go into the little divot hole that's there. So just go around and do all the ones and all the slots that are popped out, and that will get your door ready for reinstallation. And like I said, as long as you have more than half of the little circle, it'll clip right in. So just to demonstrate, it's still there. It's still pretty sturdy. It's not really shifting. Okay, so once you've reattached all your plugs, just go ahead and kind of clean up the surface in here, so we'll be mounting the controller box to the back side of the plastic. So the quick and easy way to do it is the male end. So these two guys will end up going in here, and they are size specific, so you can't mess it up. Push it in until it clicks. And then the other guy. Alright, and this is going to be the key fob controller, and these two will go back into the door. So just remove the adhesive backing and find a good spot for these guys where you can make good contact. So it's going to be, that seems like a good spot. So right here off the corner on the bottom. Peel off the tape and just stick this guy right here. Just hold it for a couple of seconds till you get a good stick. And that is the wiring harness mounted. Seems to be decent. We'll just hold it a couple of seconds more, and then let's go ahead back to the door and I'll show you how to set up your wiring in there. Alright, so here we are back at the door. Here is the kind of skinnier, longer wire for the key fob controller. This guy will plug in right here. So we'll just remove this, and once again, impossible to mess up as it's only one plug. We'll get this in there, push till you hear the click, and then the female end will go into the door end. Just pay attention when you are tucking this. I'm going to try to get it to lay like so, because we want to make sure we don't block the plug and have the door kind of not being able to latch back together. This little guy is going to end up needing to go where the original wiring harness is. What I've kind of like to do, since I don't want it to get in the way, kind of just snake it around the wiring harness that's already in there. There's also some zip ties that are included if you want to double up to be safe. but this is kind of a more foolproof way to get this to go kind of all the way without having any issues. Just make sure it doesn't get stuck under the metal bracket. I would definitely get it under the metal bracket so it doesn't get cut up, and then you'll have all three connections right here available for you when we put the door panel back on. Okay, so here's kind of what I've ended up with. I put the zip ties on the little sections where there is a bit of electrical tape, it looks like. So one here, one there, and the last one right here, right behind the metal bracket. That way the zip tie doesn't cut into anything. Also, when you fold this back and attach the zip tie, it allows this to have more of a natural curve and actually holds this little guy in place. This does rattle a little bit. I might put some double-sided tape on the back side just to kind of hold it in place to prevent any rattling later. But other than that, that's kind of how I have it set up. And just really quick, like I said, I went ahead and put some double-sided tape right here, and that's holding this connector in place and stopping it from shifting. Alright, so once we have all the pre-wiring set and done, go ahead and grab your door card. The first thing we want to do is get the door handle back in place, and that's going to fall in right here. So let me see if I can move this in a way that we can see. So when you're getting the door handle back in, there is a small hole right here, and there is a kind of like a right here. It's like a little pointy bit that will go in there. So door handle goes through the hole. Might be hard to see. So door handle through the door, and then you want to get that little pointy end through that second hole, and then it just kind of goes right in there. And then use the top of the door frame to hold the door. So line it up. And the good tip is you can see where the cutout for the window is right up here, and then this should just sit right on top, and the weight of the panel should hold the door. Okay, so the next step is to go underneath the door. So we're under the door card. Here is the connection for the key fob. So these two will connect, and then the two connections that we had from the door right here will connect to the ones on the door card. These two will connect, and we'll take the big guy, and remember, always push in until you hear the clicks. Alright, and then it's just a matter of, and honestly, I'm under the car, or not under the car, but I'm laying on my back. Just kind of find a way to push all these guys back in place, and just kind of get in here and look to make sure you can get it as flat as possible. That looks pretty good. And then, here we go. And then just line up your rivets with the holes, and just push them in place. So we'll start with this guy to hold it on, and let me get back up so I have a better angle. And finally, we've arrived at the final step. So the only thing that's left to do is push the door card back in. Like I said, make sure that this guy is fully seated. A good tip, and learn from me, because I just had to pull my door card back off, which was not enjoyable the first time, but definitely easier the second time. When you are putting the door back in, kind of take it in at like a 20-degree angle, kind of just tilt it and then set it down. And also the other reason I had to redo the door was my door handle wasn't lined up properly. So before you punch everything back together, make sure that that first little pointy bit that I mentioned earlier is properly seated right there, and then double check to make sure that you can see the screw hole where the Phillips will go back in. The first time I put the door back in, this had fallen out of place, and it actually was further back, and I couldn't get the screw back in there. So before you put everything back together, double check to make sure you can see the screw hole for the door handle. And then, like I said, to check this, just kind of push like the window gap apart, make sure there's no flex. There is a little bit of flex here in the corner, which is normal, but this looks pretty good. So let me go back underneath and tuck everything back in, and then we'll just push the door in place. And then I'll go inside of the car and walk you through the setup process of initializing the windows properly. Okay, we're in the car now. We just reconnected the battery, so make sure you go ahead and do that. Also, the one thing I forgot to mention in the previous step, make sure you get the Phillips both in the door handle and the door card, and then put your little covers back on. The instructions state to close everything up, so we'll go ahead and turn the car on. We'll go ahead and close the roof. Everyone loves watching this, so let's just enjoy this for a moment. All right, and then to set up the windows, you pretty much have to tell the car where the top and the bottom is. So just go ahead and press and hold and close the window. Hold it for 1-2 full seconds, and then go ahead and lower the window. Make sure you keep holding it all the way for the driver's side. And then for the passenger side, we'll do the same thing. We'll close the window, hold it for 2 full seconds, let go, and then put the window all the way down and hold it for 2 seconds. Okay, so we finished the initialization step, so let's give it a try. This, 1 tap and close, and then we'll do the same for the passenger side. 1 tap and close. So that's awesome. That fixes the one-touch operation when it comes to that. Now let's go ahead and see what happens when we open the roof. So if I hit the roof opening, it still drops it 1 inch and the roof will open up. Previously it used to pop back up when the operation was finished, so let's see what it does. So the windows do come back up like it did, and then let's go ahead and close the roof and see how it reacts. So the windows still stay down, so that's a little disappointing, but from my understanding, if you do have the KeyFob controller and you operate and close the roof, it should close the gap if you do the roof with the KeyFob. So let's go outside and give that a try and see how that does. Okay, so here we are in the garage after everything's been installed, tidied up, and cleaned up. If you did the ignition controller, which we did in another video, it should allow you to open your windows with the 2-click operation, and then the 3 clicks will allow you to open the roof. So let me go ahead and demonstrate how this works now. So 1 and 2, and that's how it opens the windows. We'll have that, and then we'll also show you 1, 2, 3 to open the roof. So I'll let the car do that. I'm gonna give it a break because I've been testing the windows and all that. I don't wanna fry the motors or kill the battery. So I'll come back in a little bit and then we'll do the closing operation and see how well that works as well. Okay, so we're giving the car some time to cool off on the motor for the window and the roof. So let's go ahead and see how it does with closing. So we'll do, well, I'm just gonna do 3. So it should be 1, 2 to close the window, 3 to close the roof, and we'll see how it reacts. So the windows will close with the 2. It's a little bit of a delay, but it should also trigger the roof. So the windows do drop down like normal to make space for the roof to close properly. And then theoretically, the window should close all the way once the roof operation is done. And it does. All right, so this is awesome. This fixes one of the bigger problems that I had, especially when you're leaving the car and it just kind of leaves the gap open. You have to go back in and close the windows. So, like I said, when you're inside the car, it still leaves a little bit of a gap. So that's not as annoying as I thought it would be, because obviously you're inside and you can just close it. But if you're outside and you want to close it, or there's a little bit of gap left as you're leaving, you can just double click the key fob and it will close the gap. So overall, very happy. Hope this video helps. We tried our best to cover every single step without skipping anything or fast forwarding. Remember, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and stick around, and hopefully I'll make some other videos for you guys when the time comes.